Good evening, everyone. Show time is 6:30 on August the 22nd, August 16th, 2022. This regular meeting of the Mayor and Council is now called to order. Roll call, all council members are present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Powell, will you lead us in prayer, please?
Let us pray. Father, we are grateful to be able to gather as free people and to bring our issues and problems and successes to this meeting and to debate them and to listen to each other and to disagree in some instances, Lord. But we just ask you to bless the meeting and help the decisions that get made to be the right ones that are consistent with your will. Bless this community, Lord, with your kindness and your favor. And Lord, bless all those who work and call themselves employees of the city, that they might be blessed for all that they do for this community, Lord. And we just pray we pray in praise for your graciousness for this place and for your blessing. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tony. Okay, I have a few announcements. Municipal Court will be held August the 17th at 1 p.m. in our community room. Planning Commission has a meeting August the 23rd, 6 p.m. also in the community room. The Tree Board meeting August the 25th, 6 p.m. community room. Our next council work session September the 1st at 6:30 p.m. in the community room. Main Street Commission meeting September the 13th, 8 a.m. in the community room. Historic Preservation meeting September the 13th at 6 p.m. also in the community room. And our next council meeting will be September the 20th, 6:30 p.m. also in the community room. Getting into our agenda, we have presentations first. I understand we have no employee introduction and recognition tonight, so we'll move into downtown rundown.
Good evening. First on my rundown for tonight is a reminder about the Social Circle Friendship Festival. The 28th Annual Friendship Festival will be held on October the 1st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And this will be the first year since 2019 that we'll be filling all the spaces with no buffer in between. So we have 125 spaces to fill this year. So still have spaces available, and deadline for registration is September the 16th. On this Saturday, August the 20th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Walton County Master Gardeners will be holding a pollinator event in Friendship Park. As you all know, we have a pollinator garden there that they planted a couple of years ago. And so they're going to be educating kids on the importance of pollinators and having a lot of different fun activities. So that's this Saturday in Friendship Park from 10 to 2. And then I wanted to give you guys an update about the new businesses downtown. So we've had several new businesses open in the last month. Critters Outdoor Pizza has opened in the old Villa Pizza location. 5 June and Alterations by Holly are open in the old Barbed Wire and Lace location, and Acopia Home Loans are in the old Longino building. So we hope to be getting a couple of new businesses in the next few months as well. And that's it. All I have for tonight.
Any questions for Amber? Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, moving on, we have citizens' requests. Tonight we do have someone signed up to speak to us, so Mr. Hutchison, if you'll step forward, please.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. My name is Eric Hutchison. I spoke briefly at this meeting last month as well. That's why I made sure to come with notes this time. I'm a resident of Social Circle. I live on Thurman Backus Road in the city limits on the south side of town with my wife and 7 kids between the ages of 3 and 14. We moved here for the same reason that many of you did, for the rural feel and the small town atmosphere. We plan to continue to raise our family here for many years to come and eventually retire here. Recently we became aware of the the logistics project that's coming on next to our land. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about the variances yet. That's for the public hearing, but I do want to address some of the issues and concerns with the project itself. First, the environmental impact. There's multiple stream channels with 828 linear feet of streams that will be displaced and or disrupted by the facilities and concrete market areas. It's not to mention the stream beds that will be cut off due to that disruption. These streams flow directly into the Little River, which then flows out of our town. Outflow from this project has a strong likelihood of disrupting and polluting the Little River and turning the water source, and in turn, the water sources for our surrounding communities. In addition, my family's pond, in which we swim and fish and ultimately feeds the groundwater for the well, from which we get our drinking water and water for our animals and our gardens. This pond is currently fed from the outflow from the streams on the property in question. Disruption of these wetlands can mean destruction of our property as well as affect the downstream ecosystems. Massive amounts of sediment will be displaced by this scale of a project, and inevitably pollutants will be sent downstream. This is not just something I invented myself. The previous owner of my property actually won a lawsuit against the developers of another warehouse nearby because they pushed so much sediment into the stream it completely filled in the pond. So because of that lawsuit, they were required to retrench it out, and it's almost an identical scenario happening here again, this time right next door. So there's very little thought given to the impact of noise and light pollution as well of a project in this area. I'd go out now on a moonless night and still have plenty of ambient light due to the light pollution already generated by Dart and General Mills in that area. We can also hear them all night long stacking pallets and moving tractor trailers. This will only get worse for the residents in this area with the building at the logistics center. My request here is this, that you pass a resolution at least to implement safeguards and conditions which must be met by the developers to guarantee zero impact to not only our property but as well as the ecosystems downstream, and provide mitigation strategies for the light and noise pollution which will be inherent in a project like this. I just don't think that paying $485,000 to the Army Corps of Engineers for stream credits is enough to mitigate what is likely to be the destruction that will ensue. Second, I attended the Social Circle and Economic Development strategic meeting last month, along with a lot of you guys. And I was both extremely scared, but I was also encouraged by what was said. I was troubled by what Mr. Roberts had to say with the pathway he paved to turn Social Circle into a metropolitan outcropping of the greater Atlanta area. But I was encouraged by what the town's governing councils actually had to say when he asked the question, what is it you love the most about Social Circle? And I think all of us in this room would say the same thing. Unanimously almost, they said the small town feel. So when we asked what their largest concerns were for the future of Social Circle, especially in regards to the Rivian plant, among other things, their fears were also the same. The loss of community, loss of that small town feel, and of note was the comment that was a particular comment that warned against unmitigated growth in our area. So those of us down here on the outside of the bag pass though we've been cut off from the core of Social Circle, we're still a part of this town, and our values match yours. We want to see this Social Circle be the small town vision that everyone else, that the town wants. I'm a commercial pilot, and I fly over this region regularly, and all I see when I fly over the giant warehouses that are already there, Dart and General Mills. And this logistics center is going to be larger than both of them combined. So my second request is that you reevaluate the direction given to the downtown development and the long-term community outlook. Establish limits on corporate entities that do desire to relocate here, mitigate the growth, protect some of the green spaces, then codify your desire to maintain a small downscale. So, I mean, do you know that the Social Circle Comprehensive Plan 2040 has nearly a quarter of the town designated as industrial character areas? I just don't think that sounds like small town. our town survey respondents on the same document said they want Social Circle to remain rural. Our city representatives, you, want to keep the small town feel. So let's find a way to define it and reflect the will of the people. Mayor Keener, last month you mentioned that you get calls regularly asking from residents to close the doors. But maybe there is a time to close the doors to oversized developments that destroy our ecosystems and outgrow our community. 20 years from now, we're going to look back and wonder, where did all the green space go? It's a valuable resource. It doesn't come back. I realize that most of this city's green space is currently zoned light industrial, but I think we could and we should change that. Preserve some of this land, reconsider its use, reconsider the comprehensive plan, which allows for a quarter of the town to turn industrial. I may not have the money, and I'm plenty busy providing for the safety and care of my own family, but out of necessity, if you allow or ask me to, if by miracle the logistics center decides to go somewhere else, I'll find the time and start a foundation. I'll solicit donations and grants. I'll volunteer. I'll turn that land into a green space if you want me to. I'll turn it into something Social Circle will be proud of. Bottom line, this project came as a shock. I trust you and the council to do what you can, but I'm also willing to stand in and fight to preserve the future of our community. I turned in my application a couple of weeks ago to serve with you guys in the Development Authority to help affect those changes to keep Social Circle the best little city in Georgia. We all need to be a little bit shocked by what's going on. We need to wake up and we need to change the path we're barreling down towards unmitigated growth. I'm not against all growth, don't get me wrong. I'm not a no vote on every new project, but we can and should capture the small town feel while experiencing that growth. It has to be the right kind of growth. So, just to rehash, my two requests are resolutions to implement safeguards and conditions to the projects that guarantee zero impact to the ecosystems downstream from them. And the second was to find ways to keep us a small town, essentially. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Working or not?
Do we have any council requests? Yeah, on Highway 11 right here, this is what we do, putting the pipelines in. We got a whole lot of mud and dirt in the roads. And this is going to create a problem here. That's our contractors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure they take care of that before it gets out there. It's a lot of it.
Okay. Ken, will you make a note of that, please, sir? All right, next up, the agenda.
I want to make a motion to amend the agenda to add a item under new business of a moratorium on any new warehouses until we look at the ordinance, just on things that is not in the system or the pipeline now. Anything is going now can move forward, as long as we vote in favor.
Steve, you want to put that under new business?
Yep. I was gonna wait till a work session, but we might as well go ahead and. We're looking at our ordinances anyway, we might as well look at that one too.
So
Okay.
this is warehouses? Or is it?
Yeah, just warehouses.
All right, Steve, that's in the form of a motion. To have a second on that?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Teresa. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, next up, we begin our section on public hearings. Tonight, we have 3 public hearings, actually 4 public hearings, and one of them is in the form of 4 variances, so we will hear each one of those independently. First up, we have a hearing on the proposed 2022 property tax millage rate. Mr. Zadell, I believe you have a slide on that.
Yes, sir, thank you. This is the third of 3 required public hearings for the millage rate for 2022. Prior hearings were held on July 19th at noon here in this room, and then again that evening during our regular council meeting at 6:30. The fiscal year 2023 budget was developed with a current millage rate of 7.9 mils. This is the millage rate that we have had in the city, I believe it's since 2016. The staff is recommending that we adopt the 7.9 millage rate for the 2022 year budget. The citizens will not see a tax increase unless their property was one of the properties that was reassessed in 2021 or their property is new to the tax digest.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. I'll open it up for any comments from the floor, either for or against this proposal. Seeing none, I'll close that public hearing, bring it back to the City Council for a consideration of a resolution to adopt the 2022 property tax millage rate.
I would like to make a motion to adopt the 2022 millage rate of 7.9 mils.
We have a motion from Teresa. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Nathan. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
What you doing there? What you doing?
What am I doing? I don't know what that's about. I may just have to.
Stand up, speak louder or something.
Try it. I'll trade with Tyson, see if that helps. Yep. I can hear myself now. All right, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing for 586 North Cherokee Road, a conditional use zoning. I need a motion to table that zoning until our September 20th meeting. That has not been to planning and zoning as of yet. Sir?
It's the same one we talked about.
Yep.
So moved.
Motion from Steve, is there a second? Second from Tyson, any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that one is tabled until September 20th. All right, next up, there's a variance request at 1365 East Hightower Trail. This is inclusive of 4 different variances. I'm going to ask our staff representative to present this item to us as one unit, and then as we come to each one of the individual variances, we will open a public hearing on each and then vote during that process. So, Ms. Barbara, if you will.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You do have a 4 variance request. This applicant is Longleaf, well, Walton Leaf. They go back to 2 of them. They wanted to develop a distribution warehouses on around 230 acres. This is for parcel ID SC 230006 on East Hightower Trail. and parcel ID number SC230005 on Social Circle Parkway. The variance requests are for a right-of-way setback to be 240 feet instead of the maximum 60 feet of pavement allowed on the right-of-way on Social Circle Parkway. This would allow 8 rows of parking and 4 drive aisles. Next variance, and this variance is actually over 50% of the allowed amount on a variance applicant can request. The variance to decrease the 120-foot building setback requirement to 95 feet instead of the 120 feet setback. We have a variance request to reduce the 50-foot landscape buffer on East Hightower Trail to 25 requirement down to 52 Social Circle Parkway. I'm sorry, I apologize. I read that twice. On the East Hightower Trail would be the 25 instead of 50, and then a variance of a 100-foot landscape buffer requirement down to 52 along Social Circle Parkway. Just a little background, the Social Circle Logistics Center property is zoned I-1. We have a DRI, the Development Regional Impact Study. They did advise us about the setbacks would need to be adhered to because we have our Social Circle Highway Corridor Ordinance, and by keeping with the plan that this development might cause on those encroachments. The applicant does have a National Corps of Engineers applicant that they did purchase the credits that are outlined in the official letter. The City of Social Circle Highway Corridor Ordinance has states that a large area of asphalt parking without landscaping adjacent to the roadway is not permitted. The city engineer, Mr. Parker from Precision Planning, did review these plans. He did recommend several things. On the East Hightower Trail, the engineer stated that the proposed widening of East Hightower Trail could impact city utilities, water, gas, and sewer, and the city could require the applicant to relocate any impacted utilities or reimburse the city for any utility relocation cost. The engineer advised that the widening of East Hightower Trail should be done on the applicant's side of the road due to the CSX Railroad proximity. The Highway Corridor Ordinance states that industrial corridors shall have an interconnected corporate campus appearance on roadways while serving a function in a vital industrial community, remain attractive for travel corridors and residents and visitors. Our engineer advised the city should consider the development to be required to dedicate 60 foot of property as right-of-way for the entire road frontage on East Hightower Trail. This will ensure the city has adequate space to widen East Hightower Trail to accommodate traffic this and other projects will bring. Also, our engineer evaluation of the city should place in the agreement between the city and the developer the cost of the relocation of the utilities would be at the developer's expense. We did hear this at the Planning Corridor Highway Corridor meeting last month, and the Planning Commission recommended denial on all 4 variances, and the city staff recommends denial on all 4 variants as well. Now, I've been told, and it's been a crazy week this week, but I've been told there may be a revised plan, and I would suggest if there's revised plans that he withdraw and go back to the highway corridor for reconsideration of any revised plans.
Thank you, Barbara. Any questions for Barbara? Thank you. I see the applicant is here. If you'll step forward, please. What Barbara just stated, is that indeed a consideration that you have another plan?
Yes, sir. I would like to start out, if I could, just give you a brief overview of our project and have some revisions to these requests that I'd like to share with you tonight.
That's fine. I'll open the public hearing for you to do so, sir.
I'm sorry?
I'll open the public hearing for you to do.
Sure. I'm Greg Osborne, by the way. I'm managing partner with Longleaf and Walton Leaf LLC. We own 235 acres at the corner of the Social Circle Bypass and East Hightower Trail. This project is a 2.3 million square foot state-of-the-art logistics and transportation project comprised of 3 separate buildings. We have a project cost estimate of $195 million for this project. That will generate upwards to $1 million in property taxes to the city of Social Circle. You can improve your schools for your children, you can build parks, you can build bicycle paths, you can do walking trails, improve your roads, improve your utilities. It's a significant impact economically for the city of Social Circle. Furthermore, we have not requested nor have we been offered any incentives from the government, any tax abatements, anything like that. We're paying our own way. We're not looking for any money from anybody from the state or the city or county or otherwise. So I'd like you to know that. Additionally, jobs are important. We will bring 1,000 to 2,000 jobs to the city of Social Circle. We have 1,000 parking spaces. The reason I say a range of 1,000 to 2,000 is that there'll be a second shift on some of the Fortune 500 companies we're talking about occupying these buildings. Furthermore, I understand the concerns about DART and General Mills. Here's a rendering of the architecture of our buildings. As you can see, it's nothing like DART or General Mills. This is a first-class operation, a very expensive building, 3 buildings, I should say. So I wanted to show you that. I also had a 3D model built of our project on a computer, and I have some street views of various locations along the bypass and East High Tower Trail that I can share with you if you would allow me to do so. It will give you an idea of what you will see when you're in your car on the Social Circle bypass and East High Tower Trail.
If you have those, will you please give them to the city clerk and she can pass them out?
Yeah, they're boards actually.
Oh, it's on boards, okay.
So this is a view from East High Tower Trail, looking back at what we call Building 100. You see we have evergreen trees that will grow to be 40 to 60 feet tall, and magnolias all the way around the property. So if you're in your car and you're right here and you're looking at the project, this is what you're going to see. This building is 15 feet below the grade of East High Tower Trail.
Please,
Okay.
please point to that on this map.
Right here. If that's where you live. You're driving right here and you're looking at this project, this is what you're going to see. All right, this is a pin corner view of East High Tower and Social Circle bypass. You can see this black arrow. It's looking at it from this corner right here. This is what you will see at eye level from the ground on this property. From the Social Circle bypass, we have a view as you approach the big building on Social Circle bypass, which of course is right here. And this is what you will see while you're in your car driving down Social Circle bypass. Again, these buildings are 15 to 20 feet below grade of these roads. We're spending up to $3 million in landscaping to improve this project. Our goal, even though there are a lot of people that don't believe what developers say to them, is to prove that you can build a state-of-the-art logistics center in a rural community softly, meaning preserve as much of the environment as you possibly can. This is my last view, and it's from right here on the Social Circle bypass, looking from your car on the street. This is what you'll see from our project. Okay, with respect to the environment and streams and creeks, all this green is existing trees that we are saving. We have almost 50% of our site that's pervious, meaning it's not asphalt, it's not concrete, it's not rooftops. It's grass, it's trees, it's landscape. Okay, that's unheard of on a 235-acre site. These streams are wet, weathered ditches. Okay, they're 2 to 3 feet deep wide, and they don't flow unless it rains. There's no rainbow trout in these streams. They're not streams, they're wet weather ditches. But the Corps of Engineers has some unusual definitions for what they consider to be a stream. So complicated that even the people in the Corps don't understand it themselves. But in any event, we wanted to save these trees. We wanted to have an industrial park unlike any other. You will never see an industrial park of this size that saves any trees, much less the almost 60 acres that we're saving. There are EPD regulations, there are Georgia soil and water regulations that are extensive, that we have all applied for. There will be no pollutants in any of these wet weather ditches that run downstream. We've proven there's no wildlife or any kind of environmental plants or so forth. I have a 50-page wetlands delineation report from the Corps that I'd be glad to share with anybody that would like to see it. Mr. Hutchinson would love to share it with you if you'd like to see it. It's very informative and it supports what I just said. So with respect to the variance, the variance to decrease from 120-foot building setback to 95-foot building setback, we withdraw this request. And this happens right here. The corner of this building intruded on the setback, the building setback, and therefore intruded on the, well, no, this is just for the setback. So we are withdrawing this request. We have tweaked this building slightly so that we could turn it enough that way. It's not a really big site plan change. We're just turning it this way slightly so that we can avoid this request for this variance. So we request that this be off the table. Second variance is the proposed reduction of a 100-foot landscape buffer along Highway 11 down to a minimum of 52. We withdraw our request for this variance. This happens right here. We had a 240-foot wide parking lot right here that encroached on the landscape buffer slightly, very slightly. But we withdraw that, and I'll tell you why we withdraw that. We've taken half of these parking spaces and we've moved them to this side of the building, which is another one of our variances. You know, the COA ordinance says 60 feet, 2 rows of parking. Ladies and gentlemen, that's great for a Dollar General. That's great for a Waffle House. But that doesn't work for a 1 million square foot building. It just doesn't. I mean, I got 1,000 employees here. Every parking space is a job. So I'll show you the plan that we took half of this, put it over here. So, and this is a big concession for us because the office is on this end. This is 5.5 football fields long, right? So anybody that's got to walk from here to the front door is better pack a lunch. So I just want to emphasize that this is a significant compromise that we're trying to make to just show our spirit and our desire to compromise and for the mutually beneficial relationship that we will have for a long, long, long time associated with this project. There are 2 variances that one that we would like to amend and one that we would like to keep. The one that we would like to amend is the one I just mentioned, which is the 240 feet of parking we've cut down to 120 and put the other 120 down here. You know, if you insist that we can only have 60 feet of parking and 2 rows of parking on this building, this project won't happen. You know, I think that this project of this size may not have been contemplated when the COA ordinance was developed. I don't know, but I think it is something that should be revisited because it certainly doesn't work for anything larger than a drugstore or a Dollar General. I have a plan that shows you this change. You can see that the parking lot is now out of the landscape buffer, which is the red dotted line. We've moved half of it down here. So we no longer need this variance, and we're asking for 120 feet, 4 rows of parking on each end of the building instead of 8 rows of parking and 240 feet on the front side of the building. That's our remaining request. Lastly, we have a request for a 25-foot encroachment on a 50-foot landscape buffer along East Hightower Trail. This is something we simply cannot do anything about. And believe me, we've spent hours and hours making these changes and trying to figure out how to tweak these buildings. However, I want you to understand this. The encroachment is 25 feet here. It's 16 feet here. It's 10 feet here. It's 5 feet here. It's a tapered encroachment. This is a cross-dock building, meaning that there's a truck court here and a truck court here. They're each at 195 feet deep. Our clients, our tenants would want them to be 200 feet deep. We simply can't do that. The dimensions of these buildings are not random. They are selected so that the bay depths and bay dimensions of these buildings will work in favor of the users for the most efficient use of the building. So all of this ties together and is required for market. So having said all that, there's nowhere for me to move this building to get 25 to 10 feet out of the landscape buffer. There's just nowhere to do it. You know, I have to encroach on more of the creeks, and we've used up our credits already, and we have a nationwide permit, and we have a DRI, and we've done all our geotech, we've done all our environmental work, we've done everything that a responsible developer has to do for a project of this size. So I hope that has explained where we are tonight, and it also, I hope that it shows that we are working very hard to listen to you and to try to make this project as close to being what you guys visualize as possibly can. And I will assure you, look around and show me an industrial park that's 235 acres, $2.3 million, a yield of $1 million a year in property taxes and 1,000 jobs, and show me a tree on that site that was existing. You won't find it. We had almost 60 acres of existing hardwood trees that we're saving. So hopefully that will express our feelings and express our views on what we're trying to do here. But as I said early on, we want to show the world, we want to show the state that you can do a state-of-the-art logistics transportation facility in a rural area and do it softly and take into consideration the environment and the existing trees. These tree lines are beautiful in the fall. They're mostly hardwoods. So we're excited about the end result of this project and how it will look. So I'm glad to take any questions that anyone has at this point. You know, we have been delayed for various reasons on this project. We would like to think that you will realize that, you know, the money that we generate, the jobs that we generate will all be beneficial to Social Circle, you know, just off the chart, really. And we're not trying to change any small town feel. We're going to make your small town a hell of a lot more attractive and useful to all your citizens with the money that we're going to generate. So that's why I'm here, and I'm here to beg you, give me a COA tonight so that I can move on, submit my LDP. These adjustments to our site plans are so minor, they wouldn't even be noticed if I resubmit them to the Planning Commission. But if I do, then I'll have to wait another 60 days before I can submit for my LDP, which we are ready to do. So I hope I haven't taken too much time. Thank you all for listening to me. And I know I get a little passionate about this stuff, but I'm carrying this baby for about a year now, and I'm ready to give birth.
All right, thank you, Mr. Osborne. I will close this portion of the public hearing, and I'm actually going to ask for a 5-minute recess so I can consult with our attorneys on this. So we are recessed for 5 minutes.
For all there.
Except for the corner by the,
Except for the corner. That is 5, so it's 20. Building setback. It's a request, right? Right up under A. See if you better use
225. Stormwater management, Corps engineer.
All right, everyone, I apologize for that delay. We did have some questions that we needed to get resolved. The two withdrawals that you've asked for, we can certainly accept those tonight. Do not have to hear that. Your request to reduce the 50-foot landscape buffer on East Hightower Trail to a minimum of 25 feet, we can also hear that one. Your request to amend, we can't do that because you have, it's already been advertised, and I will ask our city attorney to explain that process.
So the variance procedure is unique to the social circle ordinance, and it's just like it's handled just like a zoning application and advertisement. So the standards are set by the way it gets advertised. And so it's got a provision on withdrawal, which allows council to remand it without prejudice, so you don't have to wait 12 months. It can go back to the next planning commission meeting, but to change it by 50% and to have the parking shift that way really requires advertisement again and review by the planning commission. So
I understand. I'm sorry that one of my hearing aids is in the shop right now. So I did not quite hear you on the 25-foot buffer. What was your response on that?
We can hear that particular variance tonight,
Okay.
and dispose of that one, but the two withdrawals, we can also take those, but the one to amend, we cannot accept that because of Mr. Attorney's explanation on that. So that one you will need to go back on.
And
So
Mayor,
really,
it's really for everybody's protection too. Just in listening to the mayor's explanation of understanding what happened with your presentation, it was a little confusing, to be honest. I mean, it's confusing enough to where you don't want to get passed under these provisions. You want it to go back and get full review, so that what's been stated is really clear to the planning commission and then really clear to this council when they hear it, so that it's not challengeable if it gets.
I completely understand, and I completely appreciate that, and, so no worries. When's the next planning commission meeting that this could meet at?
It was September 27th, I believe.
There's not an August, third week of August?
We have to advertise next week. We have to
Oh,
advertise
that's right.
in there.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Get the thumbs up.
Yes, ma'am.
27th of September, here in council, it's October 8th. Next, the 26th of August is the deadline to have the plans into the city to present to the Board of Education.
So I give you the same number of hard copies and thumb drive and same thing we did, right?
That's right.
so this, Mr. Osborne, I'll give you the option tonight to, if you want to withdraw all these, or if you want us to hear that one variance tonight, we can certainly do so.
I'd love to hear it. I mean, I've said everything I can say about it to the planning commission and to you guys tonight. And, Yeah, I mean, it's a deal breaker. I'm not exaggerating.
Okay.
We cannot move that building.
All right, we'll handle it that way then. That being said, I'll open a public hearing for request number 3 on your agenda, and that's a request to reduce a 50-foot landscape buffer on East Hightower Trail to a minimum of 25-foot buffer. That's parcel ID SC 230006. With public hearing open, we do have some people that have signed up to speak against this request. It's not indicated as to which variance you want to speak on, but I'll open the public hearing. Anybody that's here to speak in favor of variance request number 3 to reduce this buffer, please come forward. Seeing none, anyone here that's here to speak in opposition of this application, please step forward and give us your name and address.
God is kindly letting me go first because I got to get back to work. I'm at Foothills. I'm a teacher here, Cindy Goldthwaite Hames. My family has lived here since 1958. We bought a farm out by Hard Labor Creek in 1955. Things do change. My parents bought it for $35 an acre. That road was not paved. It was lined with cotton fields, and I missed the pavement of the road because I had mumps in first grade. So anyway, enough of my background. I love this town. I've lived in many other places, Germany, California, Pennsylvania. It is a special town, and so my heart is with it to not just put it in a glass jar, but to change it in a way that we can all love it still. Because this is the thing about Social Circle. When I came back here after my first husband had left me with 3 children and I had to remake my way, I found people I knew who supported me. And I'm going to say that you very smart people at Longleaf, I appreciate the changes you've made. I believe that you can do the final one. I believe that, you know, we can do with a little less money, a little less room. I understand your business need for this, and so I'm not trying to say that it shouldn't be done at all. And I will tell Mr. Hutchinson, our family farm is under a conservation easement out by Hard Labor Creek, so things can be done in that way that we can sort of have both ways. But we can't have bike paths and so on unless we preserve some of the space, can we? And so I'm not saying that we shouldn't build on there at all, but we do need to stick to the precedent or stick to the Planning Commission's ordinance recommendations so we don't set a precedent for other companies coming in and saying, here's the way we want to do this. Let me check my notes really quickly because I got to get back or I'm supposed to take over here. So I think that's pretty much it for me, is that there are a lot of us, because we are the tip of the iceberg. These people in this room are the tip of the iceberg of people of public opinion, right? We always know that. It takes a lot of effort to get here, to say, and to do. And so I welcome you in many ways, and I appreciate all the drawings you've done. But I know I'm smart, you're smart. We can all sit down and figure it out in some way, right? Okay? Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to Zoom because I got to get back to the students.
Thank you, ma'am. We actually had 6 people to sign up, and I intentionally did not set a timer for this because I think it's important that you're given the time to speak. But we'll also give the same amount of time to Mr. Osborne to answer any questions that you may get as a result of this. So going in order, if you're here to speak in opposition of this particular request, which is for the landscape buffer reduction, Mr. Gaither.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to reserve my time, let some other people speak for me.
Yes, sir. Ms. Waltharp.
My name is Valerie Wellhart, and I live at 429 East Hightower here in Social Circle. I've lived in Social Circle for 22 years. It's a shorter time than many of you guys, but long enough that the bypass in the corridor area was not yet built when I moved here. And I'm here simply as a citizen tonight, and I'm asking for my city council to make a choice that stands behind their city code and will ultimately benefit our town as a whole. While I know that change is inevitable, making sure that we have the kind of change that makes our community stronger and more attractive is the focus that I want us to have. It's a fact that the property in question will be turned into warehouse space. There's also a fact that granting requested variances would set a dangerous precedent for all future development along our industrial corridor. Economic impact is not a reason to grant a variance. To date, there's been no new industrial development or construction along the bypass. This property will be the first of many industries of this type. Our town's historical character and charm is at great risk if we do not follow these ordinances that we have set forth in our city code. They're in place for a reason. What is done here will absolutely set a precedent. Should any of these variances be granted, not knowing at the time that some of these will be withdrawn, there will be no defense when the other companies yet to come ask for the same variances. We would have already allowed exceptions with the first construction. We've seen what's happened with other towns, such as Monroe, when growth is allowed without control. There's no demarcation between industry and residential areas, creating nightmarish traffic snarls and unsightly areas along what could and should be areas of walkable downtown, flanked by single-family homes. Property values decrease, crime goes up, your town loses the safety and the feel of a community that cares. Monroe is revitalizing their downtown, a step which would not have been nearly as difficult had there been an adhered-to plan in place from the beginning. The request for variance number 3 at the time would make expansion of East Hightower Trail impossible in future years. The road is flanked on one side by the railroad right-of-way, which creates its own traffic nightmare when the trains come through. To decrease the landscape buffer here to 25 feet would negate all possibility of ever widening it appropriately, and with the industry in the area only set to increase, this variance is an absolutely detrimental thing to grant. Last year's housing survey indicated that we wish to remain a quaint bedroom community for Atlanta, with all the charm and peace that comes with it. We all choose not to live in Atlanta due to overdevelopment, over-urbanization, and the headaches that come with those things. The only way for that not to happen here in Social Circle is for us to hold fast to the ordinances we have in place as we develop and change. Just as change and growth can be a constant, so too can the parameters for controlling that growth so that our town remains Georgia's greatest little town.
Thank you, Ms. Walthour. Ms. Barrow.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Dr. Robin Barrow. I too live at 429 East Hightower Trail. I also own and operate a business located at 826 Knox Chapel Road. I drive through this corridor probably 6 or 8 times a day, literally every day. So when you're talking about what's already there, what's already happened, there's a lot of change, a lot of traffic, a lot of big trucks that we deal with now that used to not be there, right? We have a traffic jam half the time in that area. So while I understand and I appreciate all the changes, and I also as a small business person understand growth and the need for change in an area, I don't believe that we should set aside rules and obligations that we've made to our citizenry over the last 5 or 10 years in trying to create a change that's good for the citizenry, that's good for the town, that's good for what's coming. I'm not opposed to them being there. I am, however, opposed to creating variance exceptions for them that will not allow us to create an area that we can grow normally with over the next 25 years. If you grant number 3, there is not a good way for us to be able to manage traffic through that area when you grant that. I understand that they're saying that there's only going to be 25 feet at the tip. They're going to encroach on that only at the tip, right? And that the rest of it is going to be further and further back off the road. The most important place that they're encroaching upon is at the tip. That's where your intersection is for the bypass. That is the most important area for it not to be encroached upon. Right? If we hope at some point to extend our town out that direction, and we want to build bicycle paths, we want to build hiking trails, we want to build areas, not only do you have to leave room for expansion of your road system, but you have to leave room for expansion of the infrastructure that they're so willing to give us tax money to build.
If you don't leave that room now, you can't regain it. Right? So 2 points that I would like to make. A is I think that's the absolute worst area in the plan that you can allow the 25-foot encroachment. 2, if you allow it at that point, then I would set parameters going forward from that point that they cannot encroach all the way down East Hightower Trail the 25 feet. If they're telling us that only on that corner is where they need to encroach the 25 feet, then if you decide to let them do that, then that's fine. But push that encroachment back to where it should be at 50 feet for the rest of the perimeter going down through there, because you're already going to have a hard enough time at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hutchins.
At the risk of repeating what's being said, I'll just highlight my 2 arguments against the variances itself. One was scale. It can be scaled down. You know, I mean, there are other smaller warehouses. The other warehouses on the facility are smaller. And 2 was also precedence. You know, it's with all this industrial space in our character development plan or community development plan. You know, the precedence will be set now on how those variances are approved. Thank you for your time again.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Bray.
Hello, Matthew Bray. I live on Hancock Drive, Social Circle. One thing's already been mentioned one time or several times would be setting a precedent. It could be very dangerous doing that because, as been said before, I don't want to repeat it all, other folks are going to come in and want to do the same things. It's just, it could start a slippery slope if we were to grant variances, if y'all were to grant the variances. Something that's been mentioned is scale and size. I understand there's a market for certain size warehouses. Changing size wouldn't necessarily be impossible, but it may change the market for which it's, or it may change the clients for which it's being marketed to. I don't think it's impossible to do that, but it may be eliminating some of the options that he's trying to pursue. Overall, I think it's dangerous to grant a variance that would restrict the ability to expand roads. It's been mentioned before. I mean, I'm repeating a lot of the same things. The roadway has nowhere to go. You've got the railroad on the other side. There's just no space.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gaither.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I'm not going to take aim at the applicant's presentation. I'm confident I can shoot some holes in some of his arguments, but I'm here to talk about the variance and stay on topic here. What is a variance? A variance is a relief given to dimensional standards of a lot at the minimum necessary to make the lot usable. Is the property usable as it is, or is an industrial property? Yes, it is. Is it usable to the scale that the applicant is requesting? No, it's not. There's a saying that comes to mind, 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound sack. As others have said, the encroachment onto East Hightower would not grant us the ability to expand East Hightower, and I understand that that was formerly Highway 229, and there may be some discussions to try to get DOT to take that back over. Nonetheless, whoever has maintenance responsibility of East Hightower will face the need to expand it. And as others said, you cannot expand it to the north. You have to expand it to the south. And putting 3,500 vehicle trips per day from this type of use alone, from the DRI, which gave us that information on this intersection, that is going to be a tremendous amount of impact. Not to mention, further east of here, there's an industrial development looking at property there. So that's an additional industrial trips per day. And industrial trips per day are not the same trips per day that come in and out of Freshway. We're talking tractor trailers, talking commercial vehicles, intermingling with pedestrian vehicles. making it a very contentious point of traffic, especially during shift change hours. That is something that we all should be concerned with in looking in the future of how this property is going to develop. The applicant mentioned provide us millions of dollars of tax dollars. Well, how much is it going to cost us to buy that land back from him if the variance is granted? Our own city engineer made the recommendation that 60 foot of depth along the property from the intersection along the entire frontage should be set aside for right-of-way, as well as the development cost of removing or relocating those utilities. So that's some of the things that I'm concerned about looking at the future of this corridor and of how the industrial development of Social Circle will occur. Folks, we are in a time of growing pains. We are getting development requests daily because of several factors. One, land is cheap here and it's plentiful, and we have a workforce and we have utilities. Be cautious of the things we give away. The other thing I'd like to ask, unrelated to the variance specifically, is I noticed something just shortly during the recess that as a citizen I'm quite concerned about. There was a quorum of city council members and the two attorneys stepped outside violating the Open Meetings Act. That's a concern right there. That is not an executive session. That is not a one-on-one discussion, but three council members stepped outside to speak with the attorneys and the public was not invited. So that's a concern I have outside the variance. So there's some things that maybe we need to tighten up on. I understand we're working on that with our ordinances, but also taking consideration of this does not need to occur. The variances do not need to be granted. We need to prepare and plan for the future. The applicant has shown his willingness to adjust his plans. They can continue to be adjusted. This is not a request of necessity. This is a request of how big can I get, and that is my concern. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have of me at this time. If none, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Osborne, would you like to have comment on anything?
Yes, sir, thank you. I just want to point out that this dotted line right here is the end of the corridor overlay. Anything that happens in this direction on East Hightower Road is not subject to the corridor overlay. Therefore, any precedent that we're talking about is not going to apply to any land over here. And the only site that there is one tract of land over here that is zoned industrial. The rest is agricultural. I'm not aware of any land south of our site on Highway 11 that is zoned industrial. If it's not zoned industrial, they will have to come to you with a zoning request. At that time, you will have the opportunity to set forth whatever restrictions or requirements you so desire in that zoning hearing. The last thing that I will say is that we are not trying to get bigger. I can build this building, and I don't need this variance, but all these trees or as many as I can cut down in accordance with the ordinance will be cut down. And we'll get an individual permit from the Corps of Engineers, and we'll pipe all these creeks, and we'll probably be able to fit another building in here, which will make us a lot more money. I am not trying to fit 10 pounds in a 5-pound sack. I'm trying to build a Class A project that saves as many trees as it possibly can and conforms to the ordinance of the overlay district. Furthermore, 25 feet leaves you 25 feet of our land that you can widen the road. We'll donate the road right away to you on East Hightower along our property line, if you'll give us this variance, because we can't do this site plan without this variance. We can't lease this building at a different dimension. We just can't. So, this whole precedent thing has bothered me a little bit because, I don't know how many 2.3 million square foot projects y'all have had here in Social Circle, but I don't think it's been very many, and I'm not sure how many you're going to have in the future along this corridor overlay. But as I said, this land is zoned agricultural. And if they want anything, they'll have to come and rezone it to industrial. So, I try to be as sincere, and as respectful as I possibly can be. And, I'm telling you the truth. I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. I'm telling you that you cannot lease a building this size that is not this dimensions. I'm already going to have problems by flipping the parking, but I'll make that work. But if I have to move the building, I got no choice. I got to get an individual permit from the Corps, and I got to cut down the majority of these trees. It's taking me a little bit of time, but in the long run, I'll probably have more square footage to lease. So thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. All right.
Ask one question.
Absolutely.
How far is the, from the road to the proposed site, or, where, if that's the tractor trailer spaces or whatever that's right there, how far is that from the road? How much space is in between that? Does that make sense? That's what I'm asking.
Well, you know the answer to that? We're talking about right here. He's talking about from the road to the building. Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
So this is.
The buffer starts at the right of way, right? So there's 60-foot right of way there, so it's 30 foot inside the road already.
25 foot in the approach.
So it's 30 in the road.
That means there's
There's
25
60,
feet.
it's right here, 60-foot right of way.
Yeah.
So there's 30 inside.
Yeah, the land between the road and.
The drawing that's attached
What is-
appears to be
What is this one?
25 from the road and at the very beginning.
So they got 25
close
feet
to
left.
40 further down.
So at this point, you have 25 feet to expand the road. If this variance is approved. We are already at an turning lane at the entrance down here, and expanding East High Tower under our property.
Can you put PDF that you said is in our package, 9.503 up there? Yeah, that's the one with the layout, actual layout. It's plainer on here than it is up there. I don't know if that's where you keep it off of.
This one, sir?
Yeah, can you blow the corner up there where they're talking about? All right, you see the line, it says East High Tower and AKA State Route 229?
Right here.
You got a
I can't see
pointer?
the mouse.
Can you see the mouse?
I'm assuming that is where the four letter,
The four bullets right
the
there.
four bullets are, you're talking about the lettering just underneath it, I'm
Yeah,
assuming?
yeah. Who owns the piece of property between the right-of-way lines? The railroad's right-of-way line, you see the railroad, says right below East High Tower, says railroad right-of-way?
The other side, it looks like it went with the property.
And it don't go with the property. There's a strip of land, that's what I'm trying to get at. Who owns that piece of property between the road's right-of-way and the railroad's right-of-way? That's a piece of land, isn't it?
This is the property.
Yeah, when I looked all the,
There's a
Public,
strip.
I believe it says it's attached to this piece of property.
yeah, that's what it says, yeah, two public too, that's what I was looking at earlier about.
Do y'all own the piece of property on the other side of the
No,
road?
sir. We actually own an acre of it. It's a very odd shape that we can't do anything with it, but we had to buy it in order to buy the rest of the land. And it was Mr. Loggins had most of this right away that he donated, I think, to y'all or GDOT at some point. During his ownership. I don't know the width of that, sir, because I haven't focused on that side of the road.
My question is, that road follows the right of way. And Bob Stegger's buildings is in there, so what's the width of that piece of property right there? On that side of the track that the railroad don't own. And if you go back to the colored piece, you can see that it's colored green also. I picked up on that while ago.
Here, talking about that piece of property right there, it shows Donald Loggins, but it shows being attached to the original piece of
That's
property.
the acre you're talking about.
There's a pipe shaped piece that goes all the way to the intersection of the state line.
It don't make it to the,
attached to the original piece of property.
but it doesn't make it all the way to the.
That's because that's already the bypass is right away.
That's right. So all that is, part of that is right away.
So the intersection part up there, the river, the state already owns.
And it goes all the way to Amber's, Studdard Road on the other side.
Yeah, and at Knox Chapel, there's a giant power, giant steel power poles with guide wires and everything. So that's something we're trying to work around too. And road widening would have to do that as well at that point. But there's land between the road and the railroad tracks. There's no doubt about it. Until you cross East Hightower on Highway 11.
Until you get down to Amberstaff Study Road, and that's where the problem comes in, because the road's actually in the railroad right away.
I think that's because of the spur going to General Mills.
No, the road's actually always been in the railroad's right away down to that. It used to be a dirt road. It actually used to be their service road to work on the track. It got paved over the years.
All right.
Yes, sir, I don't know how to respond to that.
Any further discussion or any other questions for the applicant? If not, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for a decision.
Oh, wait, may I say one more thing, sir, I forgot to mention?
Go ahead.
I think it's important everybody to understand. There is a stream that encroaches underneath the building up here and another one down here. There's part of this ditch is under this building. Okay? So we have got a nationwide permit and paid for those credits to the extent that you're allowed to before you have to go for an individual permit. We've used up all our credits for a nationwide permit, is what I'm trying to say. So, moving this building encroaches on those streams, moves all this stuff in that direction. And that's why we have to go for an individual permit.
Thank you, sir. All right, public hearing closed. Discussion or motion? Discussion or motion? Variance denied fails on the lack of a motion. Mr. Osborne, you understand that you need to go back to planning and zoning for that amendment that you spoke of earlier.
About the parking on the east side of the building?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And this,
The one request that you had it's item number 1 on our agenda that you wanted to amend. We could not accept that amendment. You need to go back to court or commission on that.
so I'm sorry, what did you say about this variance on the 25 feet?
It failed. It's denied for a lack of a motion.
Mayor, I think
If it's going to be denied, it does have a lack of a motion at this point, but the council doesn't have the ability not to make a decision. There's a list of items under variance that you have to do. You have to, if you're going to deny, you've got to actually have a motion to deny.
Okay. I thank you, Tony. I didn't realize that. All right, we're back at square one. I'll entertain a motion if that's a motion to deny or approve.
And Mayor,
Just while we're on that subject matter, if I can get to the right place.
Let me ask you a question before you get to the right place. I'd like to find out who actually owns that piece of property we're talking about, because according to what we're looking up, it shows that he owns that piece of property between the railroad and East Hightower. It's saying it's part of the Loggins. He bought the Loggins property, so he bought it. So he's got, it looks like 40 foot between the railroad and the road. I'd like to know who actually owns that piece of property.
That's down here. It's not up.
It's all the
If you
way
go
up
to the survey,
there.
it may show you you know.
Go back, go, Ken, throw the color.
There's a slide that's a survey, I don't know if it goes that far.
Looks like it went with his property, because he said he bought one.
The colored one.
acre.
Show the colored piece. The one, there you go.
Go back.
All right, there you go. See the green piece in between the railroad and the road?
Right there.
Right up there. Point to it, Ty. That piece right there.
That's, we own that. That's
You own
1
that.
acre. That's 1 acre, it's 50 feet.
That's what I'm
in-
saying.
It's 50 feet at that lightest point.
The other piece up there, that where it comes down to it, between Hightower and the bypass, up back towards the bypass, the state already owns that.
This one?
No.
Right there.
No, go up at the end of that piece right there. The state already owns that to improve that intersection.
You don't want the light green or the-
I'm talking about the right of way, where it goes back and it jumps back. The state already owns that piece.
Oh, you talking about that?
Yep. Will you give us that piece of property on the other side of the road?
Yes, sir.
This right here, the state owns.
The state already owns that to widen the road.
I can't build anything on it, I'm happy to donate.
So they can ride, is the road, you wide it.
That gives you the right of way.
You can use as a right of way.
Because that's
And it
on,
works at the intersection.
and that's where he's asking for the variance at, so along that right of way.
That's correct.
And the state already owns the piece up there where it would have to be widened anyway.
Mr. Attorney, you were saying?
This is the council's instructions with regard to the code on what to do, so that the purpose of this ordinance may be served, and so that the public health, public safety, and general welfare will be secured. The mayor and council, in its decision on the application, may, in its legislative discretion, approve or deny the application as submitted, defer a decision until a specific meeting date, require the applicant to file a site plan or other plans regarding the application, and defer action to a later meeting date, or allow a withdrawal of the application by the applicant if requested. So that's your parameters of what you can do with that, with the decision. So, but it takes an affirmative vote to do one of those things. And you can see the planning director's interpretation, and one that I agree with, is that it restricts you to actually dealing with the application you got. So the withdrawal requires you to go back through that process. So this is that section, but it's approve, deny, delay it. If you wanted to do something along the lines of clarify the right-of-way dedication, you could remand it, attach it, and have it come back to you for that purpose too.
I would like to check in on the right-of-way a little bit more to make sure we have space to widen that road. My thought, and council, you can tell me if you're in agreement, but I know he's going to have to go back at the September Planning and Zoning meeting. Could we schedule a special called council meeting shortly thereafter to deal with?
We could do it at our September meeting, because he's not gonna be able to come back in September anyway, if we can get that clarified.
I think they just saying like we did for the other company.
That's what I'm saying, but he can't do anything until he gets his other thing done.
Yeah, but he won't be able to do that until September the 26th, 7th?
Yeah, but
27th.
we'll meet before then.
As long as we have.
I believe the information is on the Alta survey that I created and submitted to the city. I may be wrong, I don't have it here, but we've done an Alta survey, that shows all these tracks that we bought. And I think it shows you who the owner of that is, and it was Loggins, and now it's us.
So Nathan, if I understood you correctly, you would have a motion to defer this
To confirm that the road
application
can be widened.
for confirmation and to
Yeah.
send it back with the amendment that he's already going back.
No, it wouldn't necessarily go back to planning and zoning. I'm just saying that we would defer the decision to when we would hear the other thing that planning and zoning is going to hear, the amended option. So they'll hear that at the 27th, September 27th. And then I'm saying, could we do an earlier, September 28th or whenever it needs to be, to help speed it along for them potentially on their timetable? Give them a clear answer of yes or no. Because you can't do anything until the amended thing is to urban track, so.
I mean, what would be of most help to us, and this is done in other municipalities, but, you know, if we could go ahead and submit our land disturbance permit and make that concurrent with this review, us taking all the risk, you know, we'll take all the risk. You know, if it doesn't get approved, then we'll go back to the drawing board on our LDP. But, you know, it would help me, and I cannot see any way how it would hurt y'all or limit your decision-making to allow me to go ahead and submit my plans for a land disturbance permit and get all those reviews done with the condition that what I have on my LDP set is actually approved by the city council and mayor.
It takes about 30 days to send that land disturbance permit to the engineer and for the proper people to do all the plan review. So it could simultaneously run while y'all are waiting on this other, we could do the plan reviews.
Okay. All right, and I guess what we need to know is from the engineer, can we use that piece? Because our engineer's saying we can't.
No, I don't know if he's looked on the other side of the road though.
So
Yeah.
we need to make sure the engineer looks at that.
I mean, I can have you a survey tomorrow, showing who owns that piece of property. You know, we've got out the survey and that whole strip. In fact, the sewer manhole that we tie into is down across Hightower from Dart. So we surveyed that whole road. So there's not going to be any difficulty in showing you, you know, what we have to offer in terms of the donation right away.
You can see it better on that, I mean, where the railroad right away is and where the road right away is.
All right, Nathan, make that in the form of a motion.
I make the motion to defer the decision to confirm the right-of-way usage and the widening of the road in the future. And I guess that would be the motion. And then we would need to schedule another thing on top of that.
You gonna give them the land disturbance?
I don't know. That's
What, what's the land disturbance, I guess, attorney? Is that something common or not common? I hear him saying he'll take all the responsibility. I mean, because basically, right now what he's saying, and he said earlier that I've heard loud and clear, that he can build his plant on his land. It's just the amount of trees we're gonna lose. So us telling him he can go ahead and move dirt, is that common?
Well, I'm not sure he's gonna be able to move dirt in that time period, but I think what he wants to do is apply for his land disturbance permit and let our engineer start reviewing plans that he submits. Those plans would be submitted assuming the variance was going to be approved, and it would be denied, you know, the land disturbance permit would be denied if it wasn't approved.
Right,
It
and
would never be
you hold the permit, so if you don't want to give it to me, you don't have to give it to me, right? There's no risk I see to the city, it just saves me, you know, 30 days, because the way it's done now is I gotta wait for a COA to submit my LDP, and I'm done with my drawings. You know, I'm ready to go, and, you know, time is important. We got the fall and the winter coming up, and I'd like to start, you know, working on the site before it gets cold.
Let me make one point there, and I believe I'm accurate in saying this. To say that you can go ahead and build it is not necessarily true, because of the location of the property, it still has to go to the Planning Corridor Commission for structure to be approved, type of siding, etc., which may or may not be different from the way the plan is now. So just to move forward without having these variances approved would not be accurate.
It is not. That's not what's described. It's not something that we can do. So just to rewind the clock, I think the motion is to defer action on this, according to what you're allowed to do, to a date specific, which is going to be the date when the council takes up the recommendations of the commission on the other variants. And that date is one that's, I thought was to be a special call meeting, which we probably need to announce the date of that here in this advertising, so we have a date when that's going to. On the land disturbance permit, I don't think that's council action. There is a, I think your acting city manager understands that a land disturbance permit application can be received administratively if they think it should be, and I believe that's, in most jurisdictions, that's, you can actually get the land disturbance permit even before the variance resolution is done. Here, I believe your administrative people can pick that up and make sure they have the authority to do that. If they believe they do have the authority to do that, council shouldn't take action on it.
It's an administrative action.
It's an administrative action, yes, sir.
Barbara, when is the next court
September
meeting?
27th.
September 27th. And I need the plans by August 26th, which is next Friday.
Okay, so we have, I was just looking at my calendar, I have 28th or 29th, either one.
All right.
Okay, you want to include that as part of your motion?
Yep. September 29th. Is that okay?
Excuse me, that's the tree board meeting that night? No, I'm sorry, they're on the 22nd. Go ahead, 29th.
Okay.
Apologize.
All right, Nathan, will you?
All right, so I'll make a
amend your
motion to defer the decision to check the right-of-way situation until September the 29th for a special call meeting on this issue.
All right, we have a motion, is there a second?
Do we need to add, as far as our engineer confirming that? We'll need to add that.
I got you.
That would make sense.
I have a wedding on the phone. That's why I kept looking at that date, it sounds like something. It's in there, it's on the 29th.
On Thursday.
Yeah. She's not a state. Is that a Thursday? That's on Thursday.
Okay. I'll restate the motion to defer the decision until September the 28th. Wednesday the 28th.
All right, we have an amended motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. I'm sorry?
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That concludes our public hearings. And I know there are probably some of you here tonight that may have been here just for public hearings. So you're welcome to stay, but if you'd like to exit, I'll give you a couple minutes to do so.
Piece of property. Make sure because they're showing the river. They show the river.
Make sure that road doesn't be wide.
Why?
Miss Barbara, would you like any of these views for your office? Or for City Hall?
You can send them to me digitally, and then I'll,
Send them to you digitally, okay, digitally.
and then I'll post them on the website next week.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council. Appreciate y'all's time.
Bring him one. Give me one of those.
All right, let's continue with the meeting. Mr. Zabel, consent agenda, will you just step through that for us, please?
Yes, sir, I'd be happy to. Item number 1 on the consent agenda is your minutes from your mayor and council public hearing on July 19th. It was for the millage rate hearing. Item number 2 is your work session from July 19th, minutes of meeting. Number 3 is the minutes of the mayor and council regular meeting on July 19th. And then item number 4 would be the minutes of the mayor and council work session of August 4th. The 5th item is an authorization for employee benefit renewal for fiscal year 22 and 23. This will be the renewal of the employee health and benefit plan. Item number 6 is authorization to purchase water main from Consolidated Pipe in the amount of $313,597.08. As y'all know, we have several water line projects going on. Lead time on the pipe has become quite extensive. To help speed this up, we're going to purchase the pipe ahead of the actual contract and then bid the labor. This allows us to start getting our pipe allocated while we're waiting to finish projects. Item number 7, authorization to purchase 2 miles of 8-inch coated steel gas pipe from Consolidated Pipe. The city's portion of this expense is $140,000. This is a light project with the purchase of pipe and getting ahead of lead time. This is the pipe going to the Rivian project where we are 1/3 partner, so $140,000 is our 1/3 of that project. Item number 8 is approval of an agreement with Southeastern Corrections for probation service. This is a correction to the contract. The term dates were wrong. This is simply a correction of that. Number 9 is an authorization for a budget amendment for fiscal year 21 to 22's budget for $14,000 for the HPC grant. This was the survey to do the historic survey of the historic homes in the city. It was approved by council, but we didn't allocate where to get the funding from, and that's what this corrects. Authorization to apply for TAP funding for right-of-way acquisitions for East High Tower Trail Sideway project. This is a GDOT grant. It is available to the city for cities of less than 5,000. This allows us to apply for some funding to help with right-of-way acquisition. Number 11, thank you, is authorization for GMA lease agreement for public works equipment approved in the fiscal year 22-23 budget. I believe this is for a boom truck and a leaf vac truck. This is authorization to pursue the agreement with GMA to purchase the equipment. And then number 12 will be consideration of update to the traffic and parking ordinance. This allows us to extend the speed limits or lower the speed limits on North and South Cherokee to allow for better golf cart access to town. It also corrects the speed limit from 40 and 45 mile an hour in various locations in Willow Spring to 25 mile an hour for the length of the road. This would be a co-agreement with Walton County at the request of Georgia Department of Transportation. And then the parking part of this is the traffic and parking ordinances currently together. This would split the 2 ordinances and would add an enforcement option for golf cart parking and handicap parking and stuff in town. That would be all of our items on the consent agenda, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Ken on any of these items? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Nathan, second from Teresa. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving into unfinished business, both of these extensions of moratorium, our attorney asked if I wanted him to cover those for us. So if you will, Mr. Powell.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
The-
Sorry, Jeff.
No problem. The first one is an extension of the moratorium on accepting applications for rezonings in residential zoning classes. We're in the city's in the process of considering a uniform development authority. Eric told me this week that it's in the process of, I guess, there's a stakeholders meeting coming up to kind of get input from the city. So that's just to extend this another 90 days, so hopefully we're further along in that process. The second one is the extension of the sign moratorium. We passed that initially to allow us to review the sign because we saw some inconsistencies with the current law. I actually do have a draft from our outside counsel on that sign ordinance that I got yesterday afternoon. Tony and I have not reviewed it, but we will be sending it to council for their review, and hopefully we will be able to adopt a new sign ordinance before the November 30th deadline for us.
Thank you, Jeff. I'll entertain a motion for these individually. The first item, we extend the moratorium.
I make a motion to extend the moratorium for 90 days on all residential zoning classes.
Have a motion from Steve, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second from Nathan. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2.
Make a motion to extend the moratorium on all sign applications and extended it, how long did you say?
90 days.
90 days?
To November 30th.
November 30th.
90 days or until the city adopts a new sign ordinance. Have a motion from Steve, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Tyson. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We've added a new item. Before I get to the board appointments, do you guys want to move, since it's a similar request for a moratorium, do you want to move that? Talk about it now, or do the board appointments first and then move to that item?
Put it under new business, we go ahead and do it. That's all right. Tell me.
Yep. All right. Okay, Steve, you added that item?
I want to make a motion to put a moratorium on all warehouses. The ones
Warehouse
that-
development.
The warehouse developments that are not in the pipeline. In other words, if somebody's already asked for a zoning request, it can continue on unless it gets denied.
Is that covering a specific area, or it's all?
Citywide.
Citywide? And do you have a date for that?
Or it is to coincide with our zoning ordinance, because that is part of our zoning ordinance, that they would have to have it rezoned.
All right, then that resolution would be through November 30th. Is that correct?
Yep.
So it's something we're working through November 30th.
We can,
Yeah,
if that portion of it doesn't, if the residential part's done, then that's not, then we can always extend that part. It'll be in two separate motions anyway.
So clarifying the motion, this is only for new requests, any that are in the pipe right now?
It's only for new requests, nothing that's not in the pipeline.
So applications.
Applications, any applications.
You got something, Jack?
Yes.
Steve, I would add the term distribution center in there with warehouses as well, because that's a separate definition in there.
I want to amend my motion and add distribution center.
All right. Have a motion from Mr. Shelton, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Teresa. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, now we'll move to board appointments. I believe we have some appointments to be made this afternoon, this evening.
I'll make a motion to add Cindy Griswold to the Main Street Commission. Do I do these all at once or individually?
Let's do them individually.
Okay.
All right, motion by Nathan, is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes for the Main Street Board.
I'll make another motion to nominate Dwayne Jones and, I guess just Dwayne Jones right now. And then I'll do another one in a second.
Okay.
For the library board.
All right. Motion to appoint Dwayne Jones to the library board. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let me also clarify that motion. That vacancy exists as a result of a resignation on the library board from Ms. Posner. She still has 2 terms left, or two years left on her term. Their bylaws indicate, and our ordinance indicates, that you cannot serve more than a 7-year term. So just for clarification on that, her appointment, or his appointment, will be from today's date through the appointment date of July 1 of next year, and then 6 years going forward from that. That gives less than the 7 years.
Okay.
But it will pull that date in 1 year less than most of the other members that serve. Okay. Susan, is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Tie. Appoint Sydney.
Angie?
Angie.
Angie Griswold.
Angie Griswold to the library board. Second.
Who made the second? Okay. Motion from Tyson, second from Steve, to appoint Angie Griswold to the library board. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Are there any others to consider for this afternoon?
I still need to talk to them. Well, I got 2 people I need to talk to before I'm back to
All right, that concludes the board appointments. I don't believe we need an executive session this afternoon, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before we do that, I just want to mention, as far as us taking Magnolia Street, is that something that we needed to vote on, or?
It didn't come back on the, you're right. I thought we had to, we did it in a work, we talked about it in a work session,
We talked about it,
but it never, it's not on the,
we just thought about that.
yeah, I can't remember what. You know anything? Do we need to vote on that?
It was my understanding that y'all decided to make it a public road, correct?
So do we need to vote on it?
No, but I think there was a portion that y'all are trying to abandon, and that probably needs some information on where y'all are trying to abandon it.
The portion that runs through that boy's backyard, they built a house back here and it's just a path back here. And you're going through his yard to get to the house. And it used to come up right there in front of that house and stop until they built that house.
So we need to
We
get
can't go
somebody out.
to it, ma'am.
Somebody need to go out there and mark the portion that we're gonna abandon. And then come up with how.
They agreed, everybody that was here that night from out there agreed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, we just need,
They didn't want it to go no further than where it used to go.
so we just need to mark the portion that we're gonna abandon,
Right.
and then make a statement from this to that, higher many feet.
They need to
it is
figure out a
as
better way to
what
get a
we're
driveway through there instead of through his backyard.
And wherever it's ending, we'll have to send notices to adjoining property owners, which may just be that one person telling them we're abandoning it.
So
We don't need to make any
mark
motion
no
to
motion
accept
needed.
the road.
So they need, are they not working on it? We need to figure out who
The
we
county's supposed to go in there, and somebody's, engineer's supposed to go out there this week, I thought.
Ken, will you make sure city managers aware of that?
So just to confirm, I just want to make sure that this does not come up in the future as far as we don't own, we're not taking that street, you know. So we're good to just.
Yeah, I believe.
Jay,
Is correct.
It's appeared to be a public street because it's used by the public.
Right.
It was not maintained, was the question. It wasn't going to be maintained. I think council's giving instruction. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
It would probably be a good thing to just make a motion that you're acknowledging the existence of that roadway and asking that an abandonment plat be done in this meeting.
Right now, so we need to amend the agenda,
Yes,
add that to the agenda,
yes.
make motions, and then
You got it, Tyson, you want to handle all that?
I'd like to make amend the agenda.
You remember what that boy's name is?
Chris,
Was it Barrett?
Yeah, he's
Barrett.
Barrett. I can't remember what his first
Yes,
name
Chris
was.
Barrett.
Because last time I seen him, he wasn't gray-headed like that.
Yeah.
You can
He's a lot
amend,
younger than I am.
you can amend the agenda and we'll get a motion on that and go through that
Yeah.
appropriate. But you can also adopt whatever the, Mr. Attorney, whatever Jay just stated as your.
So I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Susan, take your choice on the second.
So we need to add.
Any further discussion? All in favor indicate saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Tyson.
So I'd like to add under new business, this item is going to be two, you did one. Two, the adoption of Magnolia Street and the abandoned portion of Magnolia. No motion.
Does that satisfy the need of the motion?
It's to acknowledge the existence of Magnolia Street and to abandon the portion of Magnolia Street.
But just adopt what he said.
What he said.
Second.
I can't remember his sister.
All right, we got a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
It's Pam and.
Yeah.
All right, motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.